why foreign people, despite good gains, despite good outlook, tend to book profits.
All right, let's pull up one counter, Satin Credit Care Network, and the reason for that is that the management is here with us. HP Singh, CMD of Satin Credit Care, here in our Delhi studio. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Singh. Just for our viewers first, give us a sense of what the business is. We understand that it's mostly a microfinance business, but if you could just explain where you are present, what you do.
So yes, it's majorly microfinance. 99% of our book is microfinance. We are present in about 16 states, with about 4 states taking a major loan book of ours, which is UP, Bihar, Punjab and Madhya Pradesh. Microfinance has a very low level of penetration right now in India. If you look at the states where we are present over there, there the penetration levels are in about 10% or about 12%. So
there's higher penetration in the south, right?
There's higher penetration in the south. But even in south, if you look at the penetration level as such, even in Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, the levels that still have not crossed about 40% or so.
And if one compares that to something like Bangladesh, what would that be?
Oh, Bangladesh they've been there for a long number of years, So I think the penetration levels, I can hazard a guess that it could be close to about 70-80% or so.
All right. So there's a lot of scope in the states, especially the states that you operate, because you're saying 10%. The UP is at 10-15%? How much is
UP is about 7.5%.
Oh, even lower than 10%.
Yeah. And it's a huge state to actually grow in, because UP consists practically about 1/3 of India in terms of the number of households it has. So it has a lot of potential.
So as one traditionally understands microfinance, most of it tends to be unsecured, or it's a loan that you give to someone who really doesn't have too many assets that you can bet on. How do you go about deciding that this person can get a loan?
So the methodology is that we form a joint liability group of women. So there are 15 women who have some economic activity. It could be an household economic activity which is there. They get together and form a group in which the collateral is, though being unsecured, the collateral is that they stand as a
Okay.
So in case of any delay or a default by anyone because of any kind of a loss in the economic activity, the other members of the group repay their installment.
So there's a lot of community pressure on people to not default?
I don't think so that's the pressure. It's basically a collateral which they stand in terms of any kind of an eventuality if it happens for a short while of time, and then they probably recover it from the person, if there's an effect on the cash flows due to some exigencies or so.
And how often do you make interest collections?
So we have models where it goes according to the borrowers. It could be fortnightly and it could be monthly also.
All right. And, one of the issues that are raised about microfinance is that the interest rates that you charge are very high. And I understand that Satin Credit Care, on an average, what would be the ticket size? Between 15 to 50,000, right? The individual...
So average is about 24,000.
24,000.
Yes.
24,000. Okay. And I understand that interest rates range between 22, 23, between the 22 to 24% range?
Yeah, the range is between 22 to 24%. As per the Reserve Bank of India norms, we are expected to have a 10% margin cap only in terms of our product. So the cost of funds, in whichever what we get money from different financial institutions and institutions across the world, we have a 10% margin cap. So if the cost of funds is about 13%, we'll have to charge 23%. We can't go beyond that.
You can't go beyond that.
Yes.
Now, I want to bring in the idea of the, something like the Jan Dhan Yojana. This is something that the government wants to do aggressively and is doing. And of course, this started many years ago, sometime in 2013, 14, it has been going on, and this government has taken it even further. Is that a potential risk? Because if a public sector bank appears in this kind of a space and gives loans at a lower rate, is it a potential risk?
I think what we've seen across in the last 60 years of banking which has been done, it's certainly a little difficult to operate at the last mile, where you really go and you actually give credit to the unbanked and at the bottom of the pyramid, which constitutes at least about 70% of the Indian society as such. I think the only advantage which probably will have that they are now getting banked. So for us, it makes us easier to also probably look at these accounts where we can actually disburse them. So, a lot of cash.
So actually, it's not a problem. You think that it's actually good for you?
Yes, it's an incentive for us to also make them bankable and also to put the money into their account so they can actually bank and do credits and disbursements from there.
But let me just take it forward from the Prime Minister's interview to Times Now, which he gave just last week, where he says that we are reaching banks to the places where someone did not see a bank. We are going to, and there's been talk about that correspondent system and there's talk about giving loans, overdraft facilities. I'm just trying to ask that how are you planning your strategy around this space? I understand penetration is low and you know that there's a wide space to go before anything happens. But yours is obviously a longer term vision. How are you planning your strategy to deal with that?
So where we belong, actually, I think, for us, the coming up of MUDRA banks, I think is a very, very encouraging flow for all microfinance institutions. Okay. Because we take them to the last mile, technically, even under-penetrated areas, remote areas. Like, for example, what we've done is Jammu was completely devoid of any microfinance activity. We were the first ones who actually entered Jammu to do microfinance over there. So areas like these and even, remote areas in Orissa, in Jharkhand, will all be possible basically because we have the footprints and microfinance to reach over there. So it is kind of this thing with the advent of MUDRA Bank, which gives refinance to a large extent to microfinance institutions. It gives us all that clue to actually move forward and move to these kind of areas over there.
But is there a danger of margin shrinking? I mean, as you said, that there's a margin cap of 10%. If your access to finance becomes easier, do you see that this business will have to be more on volume and less on the huge margins that you people enjoy?
I think, delivery of a last mile definitely has some huge cost attached to it. I think, which is probably there. That's probably one of the reasons why banks have never been able to do that. And my sense is that, if you look at the whole microfinance scenario across the world, Indian microfinance institutions are probably by far the most efficient. The rates what we charge in, as compared to even, I think, Bangladesh, which started the whole microfinance movement as such, our rates are far, far less than what they charge. But having said that, I think, where we actually also belong to is that for us, the mass volume definitely, yes, is going to bring in a lot of operating efficiencies, which ultimately will get passed on to the borrower as such. And these rates will definitely come down more as we reach those critical volumes and are able to fulfill the penetrated levels as such.
Mr. Singh, when we were over the past 1 year or so, when we've been speaking to the South-based microfinance companies, which have obviously had decent penetration, they are also trying to move into other states. Like we hear of Orissa, as you said, Orissa is one of the things where you want to go. West Bengal is another one of the states where they're planning. What is your expansion plan?
So we've done the northern geography to a large extent. UP, in spite of the fact that it is still 7.5 penetrated, we still have a long time to go before we finally get on to a level where it gets a little, I won't say saturated, but it comes to a level where I think a lot of households will have access to organized credit from institutions like us. But we are also entering states where there is still room to grow in. We've also entered West Bengal now. Okay. We've entered Maharashtra, Gujarat. We've entered Jharkhand now. So definitely, yes, and there is room for, I think there is room for all of us to probably be there. Because as I talked about the penetration level, that definitely there is a lot to be done still where we reach where all these borrowers will have access to organized credit.
So if I had to ask you about, you were saying that costs is of course an issue, that sending the last mile credit costs a lot, which is why organized banks don't want to get into it, the big banks, and organized credit comes through this microfinance route. Just explain to our viewers what typically it involves. If you had to go to a different village, how would you go about it?
So it starts from doing a village survey and getting down to the basic economic activity and other parameters which we look into before we open up a branch over there. Then the cost of the branch for people moving in over there.
And what would be typically a branch be like? You would rent a local.
We'll rent a local. Yes, we'll rent a local place over there where our boys will be there, and even to the extent that the boys will also take some place over there to come down in the evening, sleep, and because for them to reach back to their to cities as such will be difficult. So they stay over there, and then the whole process starts in the morning, where they do their collection meetings over there. By the afternoon, they come back to the branch, deposit the money into the banks, and then in the afternoon again look for people who really want credit till the evening over there. So all this is deliverance to the last mile. Definitely has a lot of this thing. Our boys also
a lot of feet on the ground.
A lot of feet on the ground. Definitely, yes.
And are you trying to computerize this process, or is that the next stage?
We've already computerized. Everything is computerized. But the thing is that we follow a hub and a spoke model. So our branches are linked to our regional offices, which are there in urban towns. So all the documents and everything moves to these urban towns where there is punched and all the computerization happens over there.
Okay. All right, Mr. Singh, thanks for coming in. It's a pleasure talking to you. It's obviously a lot of opportunity out there, and thanks for coming in and taking our time. That's Satin Credit Care. It's one of the big new MFIs which is spreading across North India, where, of course, penetration, as Mr. Singh said, is very low. We're going to take a break right now, but look at the Nikkei PMI, Pankaj. June manufacturing 51.7, and we know anything about